Welcome to the Author's Edge radio show with Guy L. Freer and Bob Price. Now, their show airs nationwide on the My Genre Radio Network, Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. Each week on their show, they help authors create books that transform our lives and imaginations. Through radio excellence, they create a unique community resource, one that promotes, connects, and fosters a sense of well-being. Gael and Bob maintain a focus on sharing books, publishing, marketing, and writing solutions. They serve listeners by providing outlets for their creative skills and energies, and they help them flourish in the competitive marketplace. Their weekly show provides intros, writing spotlights, helps you in promoting your book, your writing, your publishing, your marketing tidbits, and much more. Okay, audience, here's Gael and Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Well, hello, Gael. How are you?
I am just peachy. I just got back.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I got back from Europe. I was spent 2 months out and about playing.
Did you run into any Europeans?
One or two.
Oh, okay.
One or two.
Well, you've got family over there.
I do have family over there. That is true. So I ran into a lot. We started with Reykjavik, Iceland. It was magical. It was beautiful.
You know, I had a cousin that he and his wife, they live in New York City, and they went to Reykjavik for a vacation. I'm going, why would you go to Iceland?
Because it's beautiful.
Really?
It has waterfalls, it has lakes, and the food. Oh my goodness. The hot chocolate. To die for. To die for. The food was excellent. The people were so friendly. Everybody speaks English. It's amazing. And then after that,
Reykjavik?
They do speak Reykjavik.
Oh.
But they also spoke English.
Oh, okay.
Actually, they start teaching English in about the 3rd grade.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They
heaven forbid we do that to our kids.
Oh,
yeah.
Good Lord. We wouldn't want that to happen.
No.
But yeah, so then after that, after we spent 5 days there, and then we went to London, and we spent 11 days there in Piccadilly. Oh, and guess what?
Saw the circus?
Yeah, we did. But we also, this is the coolest part. Okay. I was a teacher for 39 years. I taught English.
You're not that old.
Well, I'm getting there. I'm working on it. It's a progress. But here's the cool part. I taught Shakespeare. I taught Romeo and Juliet. I taught Julius Caesar. Okay, every year for 39 years or thereabouts.
You're a lot older than I thought.
Yeah, I know. But this is the cool part. We went to Stratford-on-Avon, and I sat. Wow. Wait! I sat in Shakespeare's classroom.
Wow.
Okay, now I tell you, I was on a high for 3 days. It was. Ralph couldn't get me down on the ground. Okay, because I was beside myself. I was so excited. He's got video. Well, it really was. It really was. And then after that, we also went to the Globe Theater. We did Titus and Adronis, and we also saw Hamilton.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll tell you about my Paris part later. Because you know what? We have Doug Sikes with us today from Acclaim Press.
Welcome, Doug.
Well, thank you, Bob.
And Doug Sikes has been in the book industry publishing industry for 33 years, focusing on nonfiction works, primarily in the fields of history, travel, photography, and sports. His publishing company, Acclaim Press, is based in Sikeston, Missouri, and has published more than 500 books all across America, with some of the most popular books in the world on Kentucky bourbon, but he did not bring samples, so I'm not sure if we're talking to him. Their books are enjoyed both domestically and abroad, and so is the Kentucky bourbon, enjoyed domestically and abroad. How's that?
Wow.
What inspired you to become a publisher, Doug?
I think it was just fate.
Fate? You had nothing else to do, so you thought you'd print a book.
It really wasn't in the plans. It just did happen.
So what was the plan?
Well, I didn't have one.
Searching for a plan.
Searching for a plan.
It fell right on you.
Here was, 33 years ago. And someday I hope to find an honest job, but till then I'll just keep doing what I'm doing.
I love it. I love it. But you didn't have any idea that you were going to do this? I mean,
No, I did love books, so that was a help. Obviously, I loved reading.
Were you around printing at all, or?
No, I wasn't.
No.
So how did you come up with this idea? Okay, this is baffling to me.
Well, I didn't come up with the idea. They've been making books for a long time.
Bada boom.
Bada boom.
Yeah, no, but how did, I mean, what?
I just bumped into it, and was it
a figurative bump into or literal?
Well, it was close. It was in the same room. I ran into a fellow that was in the publishing business, and he was.
You stole his idea, huh?
No, he invited me into it. He said,
wow.
He said, you'd be good at this. You'd enjoy this. And I said, no, I don't think so. But he kept pursuing, and finally it had an appeal. And I said, well, we'll give it a try, and kind of fell in love with it. And next thing I knew, I'm still here.
So what were you doing before that?
Well, I've had a marketing background, so I come from that angle of things. So it was pretty easy, and that tends to be it is a major component of the publishing world. It's
right.
More so than, or as much so as the literary aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Here we are.
All right. So what are some key skills and qualities that make for a successful publisher?
Well,
that you possess.
Oh my. Well, I'll have to assume that role for a minute of a successful publisher, but I would say persistence is a good one, because you do have to overcome a lot of obstacles. Well, just getting a project together many times. It's sort of like construction. It's not as bad as
herding cats.
Yeah, a little bit like herding cats, because a lot of the people you're working with need direction, and they have a lot of inspiration sometimes, but they don't know how to execute. And so you kind of got to point directions and keep them motivated while still moving at the same time, and moving towards something that'll actually produce a real destination. So that's one of the main qualities, I guess. You have to have a certain level of empathy, perhaps, to try to get into the mind of not only the creator aspect, but the mind of the consumer in the end. What do you think they're going to want? Because in the publishing world, it doesn't do any good to create something fantastic if nobody cares.
Absolutely.
That's what we got to tap in.
Absolutely.
Do they care or not?
How do you find that audience?
Well, I don't a lot of times.
It's always a struggle. Huh?
Yeah, I think I'm wrong more than I'm right. But every now and then we hit something that they like, and it helps pay for all the futile efforts when they didn't like it.
Okay.
What trends do you see in the publishing industry currently?
Well, it's always changing, and I'm sure it always has. Personalities change, and cultures change, and appetites, and what it is they're looking for in a given time. And people see books. We're really in the entertainment business. You can live without a book. You got to have food and air and a place to live, but we prefer them. We think life is much better with a good book, and it is, but you don't have to have it. So we're creating something that's desirable and hopefully entertaining, and those, by nature, that changes what people are looking for.
Right, it does.
And what they're wanting to hear, and how deep they want to go into subjects. What those subjects are change vastly.
What are some of the subjects?
Well, of course,
you've seen changed over the years.
One of the main fields that we do a lot of local history books too. One division of our company does local history, histories of cities and counties, and many of those are very rural counties. It's not necessarily urban areas at all. And something I've noticed in the last 30 years, one of the components of those books we do a lot of family histories in those. Mm-hmm. People that live in that county writing about their background when their great-grandpa moved to such and such county in 1820, and what kind of business they were in. And we give people a chance to participate from that local area. It's really a fun project. It highly mobilizes that area from a literary standpoint. We can go in some little rural county sometime and motorize, you might say, about 1,000 writers. Sometimes 800 to 1,000 writers will contribute articles for these books. And so that, I think, in itself is a wonderful campaign to get that
Wow.
many people
Wow.
involved
Yeah,
in writing
absolutely.
in their local history.
That's hurting cats.
That is definitely hurting
It
cats.
is. That's a good way to put it. And sometimes you get scratched a little in that process, but
Bitten.
we try not to rub their fur the wrong way. Occasionally they'll bring you a dead mouse as a souvenir, but
if they like it.
we're running that analogy in the ground. That was Where were we? Well,
Yeah.
How do you keep up with the technology and the changes in, I mean, I'm thinking of AI. Does anything affect you that way, or are there different technologies that are happening? Trends?
well, I've been looking to get a hold of some of that artificial intelligence. I could use a dose myself. I don't know if I could download that or not.
It's downloadable, yes.
And if I can get it to do my work, I'll be very happy. But we haven't found a place in ours yet, because we still prefer to compose our own material at this
Right.
point. We'll see. And I'm not saying that it won't. I've got some of my children and work in the internet business, and they've already been able to find applications for it in in composition of maybe press release style articles and things like that are very fact based and don't require a whole lot of imagination. In fact,
Creativity.
creativity. That component of it's not necessary. In fact, that's one of the great changes I've seen in journalism specifically, is that we don't have a whole lot of high quality content producers in some segments of it. It's too easy to write a press release now and find it on the front page of the newspaper untouched. And used to, that was a no-no, but of course we take advantage of it. That vacuum,
Right.
we do take advantage of it, but it's still not something it concerns me on the back end of it.
Yes. I as an English teacher for 39 years, yes, I understand only too well.
Not a good trend.
No, it is not a good trend.
It's getting harder to read things. Those that look at, like yourself with your vast experience in English language, to look at things in print can be quite painful sometimes today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, okay. I correct my text messages so that they're grammatically correct. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right.
I
And I
believe
use
that.
and I use complete sentences. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You mean no initials like BC for because, or
Is that what that means?
That to me is a death penalty. Okay. I don't even want to hear it. It's like nails on a chalkboard. No, I don't use abbreviations like
do you
that.
write out LOL?
Yes.
Was it?
I don't even use LOL, honestly. I don't even use it. Okay. So, but I do correct my text messages. I will not. Nothing that I put out there will I. As a matter of fact, I have put stuff on Facebook, and I've saw that I left a word out, and I will go back and I will edit it to make sure I put the word back in.
Good for you.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's how I understand.
Yes.
I just understand.
What's your experience with digital publishing platforms? Are you doing any digital or offering any digital?
Bob, that's a good question. When it first came out, I don't know, when it first became popular, let's say about 10, 12 years ago, maybe,
Mhm.
when the surge hit, and they immediately, of course, the forecasters said the prognosticators saw the end of print and said, well, we won't need paper and printing presses in the near future. And of course, I said, well, we'll just keep going until that happens. And it had an extraordinary growth rate at that time, the digital publishing. And I like the concept, because anytime I can sell air to somebody, I think that's a great product to sell. And selling a file that's just a bunch of zeros and ones is pretty appealing to me, because for a guy that has to maintain a warehouse with millions of dollars worth of books in it, that's pretty easy to have, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So naturally, I was kind of for it, but I couldn't visualizing it being all that was being touted it to be. And what has happened now, it seems like it's reached quite an equilibrium, you might say, that it's backed off on the explosive end of it, and it's a much smaller segment of the publishing industry than that used to be a few years ago. But it has met a good need. It's what I see is it's probably the most virtuous dimension of the whole thing, or a segment of the market, I should say, is maybe in the fictional world with what was once pulp paperbacks, things that you would read once and throw away.
Right.
It has kind of replaced that. So it probably saved a few trees in that prospect. But the kind of books that we do aren't usually in that category. The things we get, people want a physical product
book.
Right.
They want to keep it they're not ever going to get rid of it.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Probably not.
And there's something so
transitory
about I love holding a book in my hand. I like the feel of it. I like the smell of it. I like looking at the words on it. I don't understand the idea of it being I don't even like reading stuff on the computer. I will print before I will print whatever I need. If it's something that, that's important that I really need to read, I print it. I don't just read it. I can't just read it on the computer. I need to have it in my hand, which is why you have a physical script in front of you. Okay? Because I just think that physicalness of the book is part of the experience.
You're right.
So I just could not imagine us not having. I remember I had a friend of mine as a teacher who said, we're going to end up replacing, when this all started, we're going to replace them all. All textbooks are going to go away, and we're just going to have computers, and that's it. And to this day, I know that will never be true, because people don't want that. I've had kids in my classroom who said to me, I don't want to read it on the computer. I want it in my hand. So I think ebooks are fine if you're going to go travel.
Yeah. They're handy.
They're handy, and Pulp Fiction, like you were saying,
read it once, throw it away,
and throw it away. But I don't think that it's going to replace books.
Like a murder mystery,
Right.
The butler did it. He still did it.
Right.
Next time you read it, he still did it.
Absolutely, he still did it. He still did it. How do you go about selecting books for publication?
Well, it's a varied process. It depends on what field it's being written about, and once again, where we think we can sell it in the end, because that's how we always look at everything in the end is can I sell this thing? Yeah, it's great, it's beautiful, done a good job, but does anybody care? Is a harsh reality.
How do you determine that?
Well, you don't. You can use indicators. You've done things that were similar. For instance, if we've done a bourbon book and it did really, really well, and we've got another one that finds a unique dimension of that wasn't addressed by the other one, and we think we can have access to that market, can tap to the people who want to see it, then we'll try another one, and any other subject that's related. Everything kind of spins off of things, and so you use that as some sort of an indicator. Then you say how accessible, how identifiable and accessible are the markets that we're looking for, because most of the books that we do in nonfiction tend to have a specialized audience somewhat. And at least we like that angle to it. And we know that the average person may not want one, but there are going to be some people out there that really want one badly.
Right.
Well, you're listening to The Author's Edge with Guy L. Freer and Bob Price, coming to you weekly on Mondays at 3 p.m. on KWRH 92.9 and KXOK 102.9 FM AM, and Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. nationwide on the My Genre Radio Network.
Do you have a marketing tidbit?
You keep asking me that.
You don't do your homework. I am telling you, I do all of this work and you don't do your homework.
But you did good homework.
Yeah, but you're supposed to do your part of the homework too.
Oh.
Like a marketing tidbit would be helpful.
You mean I got an F?
I'll give you a D-. How's that?
I will do that.
See what you did?
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So Your company slogan is Acclaim Press, your next book.
No, it's your next great book.
Ah, your next great book.
You can't read either. What is with you?
You're going to stay after class on this, Bob. I can tell already. No recess for you.
It's called eyesight. I didn't see that word, but I
Obviously.
certainly saw the word after it.
Okay, so
Well, as a publisher, what do you look for in your next great book?
We look for greatness.
Well, that's a short answer.
And then
let's have a long answer.
we look for nextness. Oh, I'll get in trouble with the English teacher if I keep that stuff up.
You get slapped with that ruler.
I know. I've already seen what happens, Bob. Oh, next great book. What was the question?
Well, what makes a book successful for
Right.
Well, our idea, the slogan of your next great book implies that there's, we're always moving forward. You can't rest entirely on what you've done. You do great books. You have a nice backlist that continues to sell. And if you pick books that are not faddish, that have a, hopefully a long-term interest, you can sell books for. I'm still selling books we did in the 90s, because we pick things that people have a ongoing and enduring interest that don't necessarily change on a daily basis, And if you're writing about the Greek Peloponnesian War, it's still pretty well the same story it was 100 years ago. It hadn't changed that much. Maybe a few archaeological updates, but overall it's about the same. So some subjects tend to stay that way. We've done a lot of American Civil War books, for instance, and
Well, that's we had she did fiction on American Civil War. Historical fiction. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We've
that
done a
was
few
Barbara
today.
Right. She did that.
Well, those are great teaching tools. We like historical fiction. Haven't done a lot, but we've dabbled in it a little bit, and it can be a great instrument to get a lot of information across, depending on the writer's ability and their capacity to research and write authentically.
Have you ever published a book you regret?
Oh, yes. I'm not going to mention them, but yes, I have.
So how'd you handle that?
Well, you just
Suck it up.
Yeah, you just got to tough it out and write it off.
Okay, what was it that made you regret it?
Well, there's different things. One is that, sometimes we can get a little over enthusiastic about what we think the response will be on something. And say, oh, this is a sure hit.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no such thing. And then we just over optimistically go to press thinking we're going to need a substantial amount of these. And then the buying public doesn't necessarily agree with you. And so you have a vast collection of them in the warehouse, or you send them out to the stores and then they beat them up on the Barnes & Noble or bookstore shelves. Excuse me. And instead of paying the bill, they just send you a bunch of books back.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so you go, ooh, I wish I hadn't done so many of those.
Right. Has it ever been where you regretted not the fact that there wasn't an interest, but like the writing of it or the author's take on something, or is it ever been where it's more of the problem with the author as opposed to the text?
Less of that, but years ago there were a few books that got through the system that after they got out there I would find flaws and errors in them, and just I wish we'd proofed that a little better.
Right.
You got in a hurry. You always regret it when you get in a hurry in this business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you just try to teach people to slow down and be careful.
How do you promote and market your books? You were saying that earlier that marketing is as big a part as anything. How do you tackle that?
It really is, Bob. And it'll vary. You depend on what that subject is and how widespread the general interest is. Is it very focused within a small group of people, or is it geographically based? Some of the subjects that we do are strongly geographically based. And we do a lot of books for Missouri. We do a lot of books on the state of Kentucky, where I'm originally from. And
no wonder the bourbon.
that's it. I mean, that's we
It makes sense. But so now okay, with that in mind, and you still didn't bring samples, that's strike two.
But I know I'm guilty of that. But transporting things across state line, the spirits and there are regulations on that, so I have to be careful. But when it's geographically based, and you have to construct your marketing to find appeal that way, because we've done, for instance, you do a book on Kentucky, and then you go to try to sell it in Tennessee, nobody cares,
Right.
and vice versa.
Right.
Not only don't care, they don't even want to hear it.
Right. Well, I think we're about to go to break. We're going to listen to some commercials.
That's
fun. What helps us
stay alive.
That's it.
All right. Thank you for listening. We'll be right back.
Hey, listeners, saying thanks to your customers is nice and polite, but expressing your gratitude in memorable and ongoing ways can boost your business. At Promo Experts LLC, we exceed our customers' expectations. For over 20 years, our product knowledge and experience has helped them with their marketing initiatives and trade show graphics. We are happy to put that experience to work for you. Quality products, great customer service, and prices are our #1 priority. We work with you to find unique, creative, and new ideas that fit your image and expectations, helping you build strong relationships with your customers. When you select Promo Experts as your marketing partner, we help you to see more than the big picture. For more information about this exciting opportunity, contact Diane Carson, President, at 636-458-5241. That's 636-458-5241. Let Promo Experts help you to move your business brand beyond the bland.
If you're looking for a new informative health and lifestyle show to gain knowledge and inspiration to help guide your journey to think, work, and live more powerfully, then you need to listen to Sage Advice with Melissa. Now, whether you're trying to improve your life from a mental, physical, or spiritual journey, Sage Advice with Melissa Coleman, CEO of Sage Skincare, delivers weekly advice from industry experts to provide you with insightful suggestions to allow you to thrive with a better quality of life. Melissa's mission: to guide you through the uncharted waters of health and wellness and to give you a voice to help improve your life. So be sure to tune in to Melissa. You'll be glad you did.
Oh, you are listening to Gael Freer and Bob Price from Author's Edge, chatting with Doug Sikes about the publishing industry. So, how do you make sure that each book is high quality and meets your standards?
Well, you have two different dimensions of that. One is the content. And from a content standpoint, you want it to be reviewed by people that know the difference if it's very specialized. And so you find editors and proofreaders that have a level of expertise that vary. And we try to get it in one of their hands. And when they go through it and work it and say, well, this doesn't make sense, or this is not accurate, needs to be researched again. And sometimes it's just errors or accidents, typographical errors and so forth. Sometimes the author was just wrong, and we'll send them back to correct it, because we don't want to perpetuate anything that's not accurate, of course. Because once it goes in print, then it unfortunately becomes a problem for the future to deal with. And so you create the content as accurate and of high quality as you can. Make sure that it flows. And, you can't proof yourself. You always have to have somebody else. I get them all the time, that even with the highly credentialed in the English professors, and they'll turn stuff in and
because they're reading what's in their head and not what's on the page.
It's an amazing phenomenon. We all need somebody else's help in that area, no matter how good you think you are. And so you go through that phase and get the content where it needs to be, and then you look at the manufacturing standpoint. How are we going to make this? Because books have a lot of variables, a lot of different formats, trim sizes, quality content, and we tend to lean on the high end, the finer qualities of ours. We don't have to, but we like to. I don't like getting books back because they fell apart or something. So we use old world processes. Like all our books almost are Smyth sewn. which is a technique that's ancient. We use a needle and thread to sew the book signatures together so they don't come apart. Individual pages can't be pulled out like some of the cheaper bindings.
Right.
And we use really good, acid-free archive quality paper that's, at least the manufacturers tell us, it'll last 200 years or more. And we put it in our guarantee that if it's not in good shape at that time, you can bring it back for a refund.
I love it.
As long as you got a receipt. And then I'll evaluate it. But so we just want the last. And a lot of our books end up in research libraries all over the country, and they get abused. They get really hit hard, used hard, and we never get books back for falling apart.
Do you, speaking of libraries, do you promote or send to libraries or sell to libraries? Have a marketing strategy that gets you in libraries?
We do work pretty hard to get in libraries, particularly in the states that have a relationship to that subject.
Mm-hmm.
They're a little difficult. They are more than I think they should be, really.
Okay.
And it could be various reasons. Sometimes they run on pretty tight budgets.
Right.
And if you catch them at a certain time of year, they're just struggling to get by, a lot of them. And then that's always a factor. And
how do you find new authors?
Well, a good many are these days, thankfully, having been in the business a long time, a lot of them find us, and we spend a lot of time kind of evaluating what we think are ideas that are viable for us. And then sometimes we'll make a recommendation that they look at other places, because we're not good at everything. We're good at a lot of stuff. And I want to be honest with them that we could manufacture a beautiful book for you, but we may not be the best at getting it in as many hands as possible in your particular field.
Right.
And, I don't like admitting that, but I just try to do it to be straight with them and to say, well, you want to find, if you're looking for a publisher, try to find somebody that already is strong in the field that relates to your book. And you may feel like yours is completely unique and there's never been a book like it, but there's probably something pretty close to it that you could kind of, imagine having a relation to, and then find those that are good in that field and have a high level of interest in it, because that means they've discovered how to find those markets and go after them, pursue them, because they're looking for content too. You can't publish your next great book if you don't have somebody writing your next great book.
True.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
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 We talked briefly about the marketing and promotion. What exactly, as a publisher, do you do for the marketing or promotion of the book?
Bob, that's a good question, and it has a very varied answer depending on the title. You want to have many different avenues at your disposal, and you'll from everything from direct mail. Direct mail is still very effective if you have a really good target list to work with. And we like to work with organizations that already have a concerted interest. Say if you're doing a book on bourbon, there's organizations of people that are bourbon aficionados that already exist. And we kind of work with those sometimes as a joint program to reach that audience. Generating publicity is the best. Buying a lot of ads doesn't seem to work a whole lot.
Buying what?
Buying a lot of ads in periodicals and stuff. Sometimes they will if you have a very highly concentrated audience, targeted audience. But in general, it's not necessarily the best. Book reviews are almost a thing of the past as far as newspapers go.
Right.
Used to, years ago, we'd send them out to major newspapers, and they had a couple of pages worth of book reviews, and you had a good chance of getting in on it. But their budgets are so tight and getting such a...
They fired everybody.
Yeah, they got them.
Yeah.
I've been to some of the rooms. So I had one of the editors in a local newspaper, which shall remain nameless, brought me in the room. I was pushing them. I said, why won't you review this book? It's local. It's one of the best sellers in the country. And they took me down the corridor of a long hall. We walked down there, and finally she opened the door slowly and said, look inside there. And in this room, about the size of this one, it was full of books that had been submitted for review.
Ooh.
And they weren't stacked in there neatly. they were thrown in there, and piles of them back in the corners.
Holy mackerel.
And she said, that's why we haven't reviewed yours yet.
Oh my goodness.
And
It
so,
was sad.
yeah,
That is so sad.
I was not happy to see it, but wasn't mad at anybody. But I just said, well, that's
It's no, not to be
unfortunate.
mad, but to be sad.
Yeah.
Well, do you use anything like Kirkus or San Francisco Chronicle or somehow to get a review online?
Or what about even Publisher Weekly?
Well, a lot of the angles like that are still available, and many of those are pay to play kind of
Yes.
reviews.
Yes.
They are.
And in fact, a lot of the awards are pay to play. It's
Right.
and you can only participate in so much of that stuff, and a lot of it I'm not going to anyway. I just don't want to mess with it.
Right.
Even some of the chains had, some of these great bestseller lists and so forth.
Mhm.
You can buy your way into that if you want to.
True.
So for the most part, it's really incumbent upon the author to be their marketer or to become a marketing.
Bob, that's a great point. Boy, it's starting to sound like a dark expose on the publishing industry here, but you really do. The authors today, the thing is, there's more books published right now than ever in the
Right.
history of mankind. There's more things coming out, and the problem is it's not hard to get as hard to get published as it used to. The problem is it's harder to get noticed than it's ever been.
Yeah.
So there's a plethora.
A lot of noise.
A lot of noise, and as a publisher, and you, Gael, would have a lot of experience in this area too. There's a lot of things published that really might not should have been.
Absolutely.
And that's a gentle way of putting it.
It's a very gentle way of putting it. I've thought of really nicer, really much more interesting ways of putting it. But yes, you're right.
And for me, that was tame, I guess. But so the filters are not all in place, and some angles that's nice. What they call the democratization of publishing, where more people can get involved with it and more ideas can get
But
out.
we shouldn't be lowering our quality. That's the problem. We're lowering the quality. You can have a good book, but it has to be good. It has to, can't be just anything that you want to put out there just for the sake of putting something out there.
And that's kind of where we're at.
That's unfortunate. I agree with you on that.
And
It
so
really
sorting
is.
through all that stuff, the noise, as Bob said, makes it hard. It makes it hard on those when you really do have something noteworthy,
Mhm.
landmarks that groundbreaking.
Mhm.
It's hard to get noticed.
So what do you look for in a manuscript? In other words, if a author came to you and submitted a manuscript, and I guess that's the normal step, do you do it online or do you you just prefer that they send a package to you, or what do you look for?
Well, those two things, and of course, Bob, that's a real good question. I'm sure some of the listeners would have an interest in that. The most important thing is that it be written. It's very hard, and you'd be amazed how many people I get that says, "I'm going to write a book. Would you publish it for me?" And I'll say, "What's it about?" And they say, "Well, I haven't written it yet." And I said, "Well, I can't hardly publish it like that. You're going to have to take it to the next, a little further down the line. You might want to compose it.
You
first."
can put it on Kindle.
So I guess I could just say, "Well, you've got an imaginary book. I'll give you an imaginary product."
Right. And an imaginary price.
Yeah,
And
that
a credit
works.
card.
Yeah, right.
But let's assume for a minute that they have taken the time to write something and they want to submit it for review. You don't want to just send it in blindly if you can help it. It's always better to be invited to submit something. But far as whether it comes in digital or in a package, the old style, of course, was to print it up and
Manuscript.
Right.
with a cover letter. And I would definitely encourage them to think beyond just, here's my glorious piece of literature, but think about who you need credential, who you are, and why you are an authority on that particular subject, and who you envision. Who is the reader? You've got to have somebody in mind that's going to be reading this thing. An audience, and how are we going to get to them? You got any clues how we're going to get to them? Some are very good. Some submissions we get, they understand that, and they know that we're going to be targeting somebody, and here's how you get to that, folks, to that group of people. Some have no idea at all. And that varies. But that doesn't keep us, just because they don't understand the marketing angle, it doesn't keep us from looking at it. And then we evaluate and see how much work's it going to need. And then you have a balancing act there.
Right.
Hey, great subject, but they're going to need a lot of work on this. And you say, is it worth it?
Right.
Is the subject worth it, or should we just throw it out and find another source? And sometimes we've had to do that. Or we've also hired people. The subject was so good, and this person needed to be connected with it. We've hired people to help them touch up the writing and rewrite it, and it becomes an author with so and so.
Right.
And that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not. But the better it's edited, the more likely it is to be published.
Well, a publisher looks at it and says, "Well, that's expense," because these
Absolutely.
proofreaders and co-writers don't work for free.
No.
So, any editing that you provide, or is it really something outside, third party?
We ask our authors to get it in the best shape that they're capable of, and that varies, of course. And as long as we see that they've done that, then we know that even when they get done with it, we're still going to look at it again, because it's got our name on there too. And we trust them to a certain degree, but in the infamous words of Ronald Reagan, trust but verify.
Yes.
We're still going to do it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
But hopefully it won't need as much work if they've done a good job. And
right.
Do you have editors that you work with or recommend?
We have them on staff, and then we also have some that we contract with that are across the country that specialize in different fields.
Okay. Why do you only focus on nonfiction?
Well, it's just where I started, and the two, believe it or not, they're so different. They're so different.
I have to do a radio identifier. Somebody just pointed out that I haven't done my radio identifier. Oh. You are listening to The Author's Edge with Gael Freer and Bob Price, coming to you weekly on Mondays at 3 p.m. on KWRH 92.9 and KXOK 102.9 FM, and Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. nationwide on My Genre Radio Network. So
Wow.
I did my job.
Gael, you did it well.
Oh, well, thank you.
I'm sure the FCC's smiling now.
Oh, I'm sure they are. But getting back to the whole editing thing, we had said the better it's edited, the more likely it is to, But we also asked about the nonfiction and fiction.
Yeah, and the fiction, I love fiction, obviously, and it's such a pleasurable field, but we don't know how to sell it real well. It's just it's so different, and the fiction publishers look at us and say, "How in the world do you sell a book to somebody like that?" It's a completely different animal, and if George Lucas had sent in Star Wars or something, I'd probably passed on it. That's how dumb I am. So what do you do with this? Star Wars.
Yeah. And look at it
Spaceships.
Yeah, spaceships.
Spaceship. Who cares about that?
Yeah.
So have you got a marketing tip? Or wait a minute.
I don't do marketing, my dear.
Yeah.
I do the writing aspect. You do the marketing, and you again have not done your homework.
We're going to have to make a sign to put on my chest.
You don't do your homework. Actually, the thing I was going to talk about was show, don't tell. Show, don't tell. Okay, so when you're writing something, you could say, my sister's room is messy, or you could say, my sister basically uses the floor of her room as a giant laundry hamper. Show, don't tell when you are writing. When you're writing description, show, don't tell. Don't tell me it was messy. Tell me what made it messy, how it made it messy, that kind of thing. That's my writing tip for the day.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Well, because nobody wants to know. You don't want to be told. You want to be shown.
Right.
And Missouri is the show me state. So keep that in mind. What things can an author do to help make their book a successful venture besides making sure it's edited well?
I was thinking about our books are so beautiful.
They are. I was just looking at that. They really are. They're pretty.
Do you think I should hold it up to the mic so the listeners can see it?
You can hold it up to the camera.
Oh, the camera.
Yes, we can hold it up to the camera.
What about the listening audience?
Yeah,
Right.
well, they're going to have to go to YouTube.
You'll have to
But
or go to acclaimpress.com.
You do. Your books are pretty books.
Well, thank you.
And I do think that pretty books really do attract.
They
They really
help.
do.
Yeah.
And your books are very, very, very pretty.
I'm looking at them from the back, and
And they're pretty.
they're pretty.
And they're
Yeah.
balanced. Most
Yeah.
of them.
So this is one of them. My kid brother's band, aka the Beatles. Okay, that's one,
Yeah.
which is really
It's this little musical group that got together over
Yeah, 'cause, just a little foursome, you know. Then there is the bourbon tasting notebook, which I also like because you can actually, if you open it up, you'll see. First off, it's real pretty, and it has places to put your score, and to do appearance and taste, and actually go through the whole thing. Do you realize how much bourbon is in this book?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Mississippi Innovators.
Missouri.
Oh no, Missouri. Why did I say Mississippi? It
Because
said
you can't read.
Missouri Innovators. Yeah, and we have all the inventors, explorers, athletes. This is also a really pretty book. I like the color.
Thank you.
That's pretty good. Now we have, what's the next one? We have the Dean of Clinton County.
Hey, now that's fiction.
Baseball novel.
That's a fiction book.
This is a fiction book.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, so what made you do
Historical
this one?
fiction?
It's a
or-
it's a historical fiction set in the 1930s over
1934,
In
Great
the-
Depression.
built around the
22-year-old
settlers.
John Lufkatter is struggling to support his wife and infant son as a coal miner in southern Illinois town of Beckmeyer, 45 miles east of St. Louis. And it goes on from there. Yeah.
And he ends
And
up-
it's also very pretty. And you know what? It's
So you
green.
do historical fiction. Okay.
Yes.
Who was it we had that was big in historical fiction? Testing your memory.
We just had someone just this morning.
No, this
Barbara?
morning, yes, Barbara, but St. Louis author.
I'll have to think. And I'm not thinking. But you know, one of the things I do like is that you're color coordinated.
Well, thank you. We try to.
No, okay, this is about baseball, right? So it would be outside, right?
Mhm.
So outside is green.
Tend to be.
See?
My yard hadn't been very much
Wow.
lately. but
You're way ahead of me.
Yeah.
Okay, what about this one? This one is the Fort Leonard, the history of Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Now, I think my husband was stationed in Fort Leonard Wood. No, he was not. Somebody I knew was stationed in Fort Leonard Wood. But anyway, see, now it's in black and white. It works. It's really important that the image works with the content.
You think so?
It was a period of time. It only had black and white.
I know, but they could have done. See, but they're looking at. Oh, look at this!
Some of them we do in some of our photography books, obviously.
Oh, look
Glorious.
at this. I
Hold that up.
okay, yeah, but I do want to say, look at this, guys.
Open that up.
Florida
That's
Bay forever. This is beautiful.
And this book was dreamed up and put together by a gentleman here in St. Louis,
Look
a
at
client of
this.
ours, Mr. Dan Burkhart.
Okay, well, I lived in Florida. We lived in Key West.
Not
We
far
lived in Key
away.
West.
Yeah.
Look at these. Oh, look at these pictures, guys.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Mr. Jimmy Buffett wrote the foreword for us on that.
Oh my.
really?
Did he really?
I think I've heard that fellow.
Yeah, once or twice.
He's fond of such environments.
Yes. This is gorgeous. They got Key West dining. Look at this, guys. Is that cool or what?
Mhm.
And of course, look at this.
Dan Burkhart.
It's in the blues. Why? Because we were doing ocean and water.
And he's in
And the
investments.
forward is by Jimmy
Rings a bell.
Buffett. This is so cool.
Beautiful.
Absolutely gorgeous.
So something like that, as you mentioned earlier about the digital format, it just wouldn't translate.
No,
No.
Not even close.
not even
No.
close. No. No, no,
No.
no. Do you do children's books?
We do, yeah. We've done a good number. Here's one we put together recently for an author over in Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky area.
And how do you market these?
Well, children's books are deceptively simple. They're the easiest book in the world to do poorly, and one of the hardest books to do well, because you've got to satisfy.
Whoa.
You've got to satisfy a lot of different audiences with that, in different age groups. Not only does the kid have to find it interesting, but that parent that has to sit there and read that thing 10, 12 times in a row.
It's going to have to find it interesting.
It's
too.
got either that or it'll get hid. It'll get just
Yeah.
dumped in the trash can later that
Yeah,
night.
look at the illustrations are gorgeous. Look at that. And where do you get your illustrators from?
Well, this one here, that the author and illustrator are one and the same on that book. He was an extremely talented artist, and he had a good story to tell, and we saw the combination and jumped on that. And it also has a particular target audience too.
Husband Ralph
Writes children's books.
writes children's books.
Yes, he's written 4 so far. He's in the middle of his 5th book.
That's lovely. That's
Yeah.
lovely.
And
Yeah.
his books all have a moral, a character builder involved in
Good.
them, all of them. How to promote doing good things, being a good person,
Good.
behaving yourself, that kind of thing.
Good
so-
for him. That's
yeah,
important.
Yeah, he's done a really good job with that. And he's got 4 books. They're all on Amazon. He's done that. He's done that real well. So
So I would recommend for the children's book author to think in terms, either get to partner up with an illustrator from the beginning, if you can. If you can't draw, then you get somebody who can,
right.
that will grasp your concept, your theme, because you have to write it in such a way. It's like writing a play. You've got a 2-page play there, and each page opens up as a spread,
Right.
and you've got to visualize it in that context, or it won't make sense. It won't
Absolutely.
flow.
Absolutely. Can you share any of your big success stories? I mean, we talked about some of the floppers,
Well,
but like some books that,
just-
just hit it out of the ballpark.
well, this Florida Bay's been very successful. We've reprinted it numerous times, and the bourbon books have been really good. I didn't bring one. We did a book on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. It's a large coffee table book, beautiful photography. That thing has been extraordinary in sales, and it just go through printing after printing. It's talking about the regrets. I wish I had printed a whole lot of them in the beginning, but I didn't, and so we've had to reprint them several times. And you think, well, it's going to play out now, but no, I just keep selling. So, you just do what you got to do.
So let me ask you this. Do any of your books end up in some of the big box stores?
Oh yeah.
How do you get them in there?
Well, there's a process that you go through. First of all, you have to be established with them. That's one of the great pitfalls of self-publishing, is that it limits you from that. You're never going to get in them. If you do it your own self, they won't deal with it, because they want to deal with somebody in the publishing business.
Okay. Now, Ingram Sparks, is that part of what you do, or part
Well,
of what
that's
you?
kind of a new angle, and it's a good angle. And, and it's not what we really do. Is we use, because those are just printing on demand, and it's okay, but you can't do this kind of quality
Right.
and binding and print. But it allows you to print one of them at a time if that's all you need. But that's also not very cost effective if you're going to sell a lot of books.
Right.
You're not going to make any money like that. So
Right.
it gets it into print. If that's the goal, if the goal is just to get it in print and give one to your relatives, then that's the best possible way to do it.
Right.
What do you see in the future of publishing? In other words, your field and
Well, my main concern is that people continue to learn to read.
Yes, I hear you on that.
I guess we can do picture books.
yeah, picture books are
That's a pretty picture.
becoming bigger, huh?
Well, the graphic novels, the comic book thing concept is very big among teenagers. It's extremely big among teenagers. And although I don't have a problem with it, the problem comes that they don't seem to be graduating from it.
Yeah, I loved comic books too when I was a kid.
Right.
But at some point, I don't read them as much anymore. But
Well,
I
I
want a
was
little more depth.
a big Mad magazine fan.
Oh, one of the best.
I like Veronica. Remember Veronica?
Veronica?
Was that like
Yeah.
Archie?
Archie and Veronica.
Yeah, really?
I love that.
Huh. I never read that one.
You never read those Veronica and Archie comic
Archie.
books?
Yeah, Archie.
Right, but
did Veronica have her own spinoff? Or?
I don't know, but I knew that she was part of the team.
Yeah, she was.
She was one of the girls. There was Betty, was one of them.
Yeah.
And Veronica and Archie.
And Veronica.
And I used to love reading those.
Those were funny.
Yeah.
Well, mine was Alfred E. Newman.
Oh, do they still make Mad? That was that was a great
No,
magazine.
that was just a great magazine.
That was a great magazine. It really was.
I think that pulls you, though. It pulls you from the comic book on into deeper literature, doesn't it?
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yep.
Satire and critique.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I have a few announcements I need to make. Guys, listen up. We have a book fair at the Cape Girardeau Public Library. Get in contact with Victoria at capelibrary.org. Her phone number is 573-334-5279. That's going to be September 2nd. So
if
get
you
in touch
want
with.
to participate,
You need to get the.
you need to get there.
You need to get there. And then there's also another book fair at Kiki's Coffee House, which is 326 South Main Street in Anna, Illinois. And that's on July 22nd. So if you're looking at doing any book tours or book fairs, those are the folks that you need to get a hold of.
Oh, the other one.
Is the Spine Bookstore and Cafe. And early September, they are going to have a book fair. So you need to take a look at that. And then they also, on July 1st, they're going to have the Pro Peace Anti-Violence Cafe Book Fair. And their website is spinebookstorecafe.com. So take a look at that as well.
It's just down the street off Arsenal.
All right, absolutely.
In St. Louis.
Yeah, in St. Louis. And then we also have the Southeast Missouri Writers Guild meeting, which is June 24th in Cape Girardeau at the Public Library. Address is 711 Clark Street in Cape. So be there or be square, as they say. All right.
Thank you for tuning in to Author's Edge. Tune in again next week for more tips, resources, and your favorite conversations. Our next guest will be...
I'm still working on it.
Okay.
But I have some really good leads.
And we'll be chatting about...
I'm still
books.
working on it. Books! And publishing and illustrators.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Till then, see you around the inkwell.
Bye.
And thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Gael and Bob.
Yeah.